Hello everyone, and welcome to the Church360 Ledger training session, Setting Up Your Budget. My name is Kendall Woolery. I've been here at Concordia for almost 4 years. I am the lead support technician. On the screen we'll have our support phone number and our support email. Definitely feel free to give us a call anytime you need any help. So today we're going to spend 25 minutes going over the information. We'll have 5 minutes at the end for questions. And feel free to ask questions throughout. I will address them in the order that they were added and at the end of the session. And the recording will be available once we are done here today. So here are the things we're going to talk about today. We're going to go over the chart of accounts and budgets. We're going to talk about selecting the fiscal year when you're adding in your budgets. We'll talk about setting budgets based on historical numbers. You'll be able to change them to your last year's budget or your last year's actuals. We'll go over the statement of income and expense and the chart of accounts reports and talk about how those interact with your budget numbers. We'll talk about exporting your budgets to Excel. And we'll go over copying and pasting your budgets into Ledger from Excel. All right, let's go ahead and get started then. Go ahead and get logged in here. So the first thing we want to talk about is your chart of accounts and getting them set up for income and expense accounts. So under settings, we have our chart of accounts, which is going to list all of our accounts, assets, liabilities, income, and expense. In this particular session, we're mainly concerned with our income and expense accounts. Go ahead and open them up, and you can see we've got quite a few accounts in here already. And you can see that we have our categories listed, offerings, funds, and then a series of funds. Categorization is good because when you run the statement of income and expense report, you're going to be able to collapse by these particular categories so that you can get a few different levels of reports. If somebody only wants to see a top level of how each category is doing for your funds, we can collapse and only show the fund names, funds, education, ministry. Or you can even go even higher up and say these are our offerings for the year and just show the offerings category altogether. The same thing will apply for your expense accounts. Categorization is always good. It allows you to have those multiple levels when you run reports, account level, minor grouping, and then all expenses combined together. Adding accounts is going to be the same for income and expense. It's just one's an income, one's an expense. But clicking on new account, you'd enter in your account name, your account number, and the system does give you the ability to put in your initial balance if you need to. So the next thing we'll talk about with budgets is being able to choose the fiscal year that you're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and click back on settings and go into budgets. Now once the budget screen loads, you're going to see it shows my budget year right here. And I can click on prior years and see the budget information that I have in there. And in this case, we'll just have current information. But this drop down right here allows you to choose which fiscal year you're going to add budget information to. In this case, you can see we've already got information in here for fiscal year 2016. So in this case, let's go ahead and bring up the option for fiscal year 2017. And you can see we currently have some information in here, but we can go ahead and work on updating all of these as well. So let me get these all reset back for us. And then we'll talk about the different ways that we can go through and enter in accounts. Like I was saying before, you do have the option to use last year's actuals or last year's budget. So we'll look at both of those methods as well as manually enter them in, and then we'll also go over the import process using the Excel file, being able to copy and paste that information in here. So just one more moment here, get this knocked out. All right. And that should be everything. All right. So to quickly add in your budgets based on different fiscal years, there's a couple of different things that we can do here. So up here at the top, you have the option that says Change All To. And I could quickly use last year's budget or last year's actuals. Save this real quick. So once we click on these options here, we will have the ability to do, like I said, last year's budget. So if I click on last year's budget, it's going to auto-populate every single account with last year's budget numbers. I also can do last year's actuals, which will now give me what we actually receive into the system. And you can see, too, it follows along. Like, for instance, VBS got 410 in January, got 100 in April, and then a few smaller deposits throughout the rest of the year. So it makes it easier. And what's nice too is if you don't want to do all that, you can, or you want to choose individual accounts to do that with. And go ahead and reset that out. If you click on a single account down here, you can do previous year budget and previous year actual for individual accounts versus doing all of the accounts themselves. So that gives you some flexibility. If you want to do last year's budget for just a single account, that's fine. Or you want to use last year's actuals for a particular account, that's fine as well. Just keep it in mind that those options are available. Whether you do every single account or you do just an individual account, it's going to be up to you. There are a few other ways that you can add the budget number in as well. I do have the option to type in the total. So in this case, I expect $250,000 for the year for that account, and that's going to auto-populate all of my columns for me with that amount divided by 12. Or I can definitely go through and go month by month and say this, $100. And as this does it, it is going to add it up for me automatically. So let's get these added back in. All right. And what's nice about this too is as I'm adding these budget numbers in, you can see that through the categorization for my funds category, my total is $251,200, and then you can see it wraps up into the total income. So I'm going to do the education one, put some BBS and some money in both of those accounts. So you can now see they equal 1,000 plus the funds total gives me this total altogether. So the same process will work for your expense accounts as well. As you're adding them in, you're going to be able to, we have our expense items. So staff salary, we're expecting $150,000. Health insurance, $5,000. All right, and then so we pretty easy to go through and update these. And you'll see before I have the option down here to reset. So if I'm going through and I'm not happy where I'm at, or I simply just want to start all over, I can go ahead and reset this, and that's going to empty out my numbers. The key would be to save this once it's done, so it would save it with the 0 state. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the export to Excel before we go and look at the reporting options. So I'm going to go ahead and export this report out to Excel. Go ahead and get that opened up for us. You do have to enable editing to bring that file up. And so now we're going to have our budget information. So what I could do is put our totals in here. Let's see. Go down here and do some expense accounts. see. Just getting these few more of these added in, and then we'll look at the copy and paste feature that we can use in Ledger, Church360 Ledger, to get this information added in. All right, so I've got that done. I'm going to go ahead and copy from right here down. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and in with my scholarship fund. So I'm going to right-click and do copy. I'm going to go ahead and go back in here to Church360 Ledger, click on my total column, and I'll right-click and do paste. And you can see it's now populated this information based on the totals that I've done. Got my expenses there and everything. And if I'm satisfied with this, I can go ahead and do Save Changes. And now my budget numbers for 2017 have been saved. Now, some things to keep in mind here. I've got these budget numbers in here. And if I decide, oh, wait, I want to do it easy and go ahead and do Change All, you have to be careful when you do this, because it does go ahead and update the system to use, it updates every single line item. So in this case, doing this Change All is not going to really be a good idea, in that all of your work that you've done would have been lost. But thankfully, there is a reset button down here, so if you accidentally do that, you'll be able to reset it. I'll reload the page here real quick. Get that brought back up for us. Change it back to our 2017 budgets. And the numbers that I copied and pasted in are now there. So in this case, if I wanted to go through and do each individual account, click on that, last year's actuals, and add the budget numbers in that way. So that goes over our different ways of getting the budget in. You're going to be able to use last year's actuals, last year's budget for single accounts or for every single account. Or you can export the budget view out to Excel and then work on entering your budget totals, whether you break it out monthly or you break it out just in the total column. You will be able to copy and paste the total column or the individual columns. If you're breaking it out and just doing the months, make sure that you start here in the January, go to December, and then that's going to be the same process that you do to import it in. You do not have to worry about the categories that are here. The system will take those into account, and you won't have any problems with that. So now that we've got our budget numbers in, we probably want to see how things are going budget-wise and how things are working. So the first report we'll look at is the statement or the income and expense report. That'll be found under our reports icon and then selecting income and expense. Now once we're in this report, the key things here are looking at your date column. So you can run this report for a month, for an entire year, a quarter. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing this report. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and run it for just January of this year. When we look at that, we have our budget numbers that were entered in, our actuals, the percent of budget, so how close we were to making our budget, and then how much remaining amount we would have in order to get our budget up to 100%. Over here we have our listing of accounts, and you can see here we have these little triangle icons. These are used to collapse to kind of create a custom report for the income and expense. We'd call this kind of a view like an account view, since we're able to see all of the accounts that we have available. Now I can go through and collapse all of these categories till I get down to where I'm only seeing kind of basic, just like the first line of categories. So I'll go ahead and minimize those. And then we do the same thing for the expenses. I'm going to go ahead and shrink all those down. And now we're left with kind of like a mid-range view. We're still pulling up our categories, so we're seeing exactly what is happening. Like our offerings are at 24. Our funds that people can give to is at 22. And you can quickly uncollapse it to show the information back fully expanded. And you've also got the top level approach where you simply just look at my income for the year, my expenses for the year, what I expect budget-wise, and then you can see here what I have for my expenses, or what I actually got for income, what I have for expenses, and you can see our income was our expenses were a lot less than what we were expecting them to be. So you can see our budget was within 92% of our income. Our expenses were only 10% of what we chose, and we have an actual income of $21,000, which is an increase of almost 400% of what we expected. So the income and expense report, gives you good information to see exactly what's going on, whether you take it at a account level and see everything, or you expand it all out so you can see everything. The choice is up to you. And unfortunately, there is no way to quickly expand and open. You simply would just have to click on each plus or minus, or the triangle icon to open everything, so we can see all of the accounts at their account levels. Now, this report can be printed out. So as I print it out, you do a print preview here. Be able to see exactly what we've got. Everything's listed as you would see. So we have our funds here, which equal our total here, and then all of these combined together equal our offerings, and you got your actuals and your budget and so forth. And you can simply just print that out and have that available. Or you've got the other option of exporting it to Excel if you wanted to use Excel, like we had similar earlier with this particular report, though it would kind of similar to this, the budget report. Let me go ahead and close that back out. Go ahead and export this to Excel. And we'll see an example of this report. So income and expense, you've got all of the amounts. We enable editing. That's kind of that is required. It's just how Excel works. But you can see here your income totals, expense totals, and then our bottom line. So, and that view, of course, could be either printed out or saved and emailed to somebody if need be. So, and of course, run it for quarters or the entire fiscal year. So some flexibility whenever it comes to this particular report. The other report we'll look at briefly is our chart of accounts report. Just that it's going to show, let me collapse so we can see our income and expense report. So you can see here, starting balance, ending balance, and then you have your change for the year. So gives you some more information based upon about your income and expense account. So this can be used to see, if you actually time this up with the month that you're looking at, and you look at your accounts, you'll be able to see, kind of compare this to your income and expense report. So I have my income account here, my starting balance, my ending balance, and I had my credits of $23,642 for income. So if I go back to my statement of income and expense, and let's see, we collapse. We look at the income, you can see $23,642. So the two reports, if one report shows one amount, you look at the chart of accounts, it shows an amount of your totals for the year or for that particular month or time frame. It should also match what you have here in your statement of income and expense. So a couple of different ways to look at the reports and compare and kind of make sure that everything in the system is correct and does match. So again, if we go back here and we said the entire year of 2016, let's collapse our assets and liabilities. Same thing with income. More so income for the year is so we did have a debit in there, so it should be 114,884. Go back to our income and expense for the whole year, and so it's already subtracting out the there's the 114,749.78, and it should be taking that debit into account. So you can see the total change right there matches what we have. So because there was that debit. So. But that's pretty much how budgets work in Church360 Ledger. The key first is, you got to get your account set up. Categorization is definitely recommended just because it gives you the ability to print these reports with different kind of groupings in mind. Fiscal years, whenever you're entering your budgets in, changing the fiscal year date is important so you can enter in for the correct date. You have the ability to enter your budgets using the options to use last year's budget, last year's actuals, and again, you can do that for every single account or just one account. You do have the option to export this to Excel, enter your numbers, and copy and paste it back in, and the ability to look at some reports and see how your budget's doing over the year and everything, or down on a monthly basis and so forth. So that'll conclude our training today. You do have the option to learn about any upcoming, or learn about things that we've released on our blog here, which is 360ledger.com/blog. There is a training manual available for Church360 Ledger that can be found from 360ledger.com/training, and it is for $25 plus shipping. Again, my name is Kendall Woolery. I'm a software support technician here at Concordia. On here we have our support email and our support phone number, so definitely feel free to give us a call whenever you can, or if you have any questions. Since I do not have any questions at this time, I do thank you all for attending, and if you have any questions in the future, just let us know. Thank you. Bye-bye.